Oh, dancing in the year. Hello,
I
beautiful. How
love
are you?
it. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Woo! I was really curious about saying that phrase this year with as much grief and losses going on in the world and
Okay.
people. But, I was thinking about it and I was thinking about how, like, it's kind of like a blessing and it's kind of like a wish. And I was like, yeah, we probably need to be saying it double.
hmm Yes. So let's talk about it a little bit more. Hesitant because of the grief and loss. Why? Because it might not land that way.
Well, because I think so many people are heartbroken right now.
hmm
And um and especially with the war going on and things like that, like people are not happy,
hmm
right? And so that part I think about. I think about, you know, yeah, it's
I
hard
hear
when
you.
people are in deep grief and loss to think about. The holidays are always so tricky anyways, but I did come to the conclusion it's a wish and a prayer
hmm
and manifesting. So,
Oh,
so definitely wishing you a happy, prosperous new year, my
thank you.
friend.
Thank you. You too. Yes. And I hear what you're saying, and it, especially as speakers, podcasters, keynote
hmm
speakers, right? We're intentional about the words that we use. So I get you being mindful of where people are. What comes
Right.
up for me is being able to still add the good. Right?
hmm
Like we have to be aware of what's going on. We should be aware of our environments, know where we are in situations. Things like that are important. Um, but the bad things I can't not talk about. The way I operate, we have to process it, right? You have to take care of stuff. And so the good things I'm definitely going to add. It's just like the celebration, it's just like the rest. So yes, definitely a happy new year, and I think it adds some light to the darkness.
Yes to adding light to the darkness.
Yeah.
I have something I want to talk to you about after we go through our intro
Okay.
because it talks about this. It talks about compassion fatigue and things like that. And I know we're welcoming in, doing a happy new year. We're talking about the wrap of season 16 and the 8 dimensions of wellness, but I think this all just flows in with it. So
Let's do
how
it.
about we do our official intro and go for it?
Absolutely. Hi, ladies. I am Shannon Mitchell, a Black millennial entrepreneur and Amazon bestselling author, the founder of Shalo Glow, an all natural handmade personal products company that helps women with dry skin glow from head to toe. I'm a champion for your self care, business care, and intentional wellness.
Hi, y'all. I'm Christine Gautreaux, a white social justice advocate, an international speaker, coach, Amazon bestselling published author and publisher, and a dancing social worker who helps you upgrade your self and community care.
Yes, together we are a podcast rooted in the 8 dimensions of wellness and the co founders, right, of Women Connected in Wisdom community.
And we like to get together every week for intentional conversations about how to be wise in business, relationships, and wellness. And if you're just joining us, welcome. We usually have
Yes.
expert guests on to talk about the 8 dimensions of wellness. But once a season, we take a moment to have a podcast for us and wrap it up together and have some conversations. So if
Yeah.
you're new in 2024 and joining us for episode 142, welcome. Today you
Welcome.
get Christine and Shannon.
Yes. Yes. And it's a lot, right? Like we said, the year has been a lot. The New Year's might be a lot for people. And when you're talking about the
Right,
8 dimensions of wellness, it can be overwhelming if you look at it,
right,
right?
right.
Even with the way we base the podcast, we named the podcast, we wanted it to not be overwhelming. But sometimes people try to look at everything at one time, and that's when we have to break it down.
Right. Well, I think about this every time this year, and I don't
Okay.
know if we had this conversation last year or not, but we
Mm.
kind of set people up for failure a little bit this time of the
How?
year
Okay.
because we all think about January 1st as being kind of a restart date, right? And
hmm
it was a good number this year too,
Yeah, it
right? It
was.
was 1/1/24. Like it was like wow, yummy,
hmm
right? But we have a holiday A lot of people go out dancing and drinking the night before.
Mhm.
Like, you're not starting the year on your normal routines, right? So I think some people get disappointed or they feel like they haven't done a good job because they're coming off the holidays and,
Mm.
they may not feel as great because they've been eating really rich foods or sugar or alcohol that they usually
Yeah,
don't have on the regular.
right,
So I always like to tell my clients just to really take a deep breath and be gentle with themselves. That it doesn't have to start on the first. Like,
right.
you can ease your way into the new year. We don't have to have everything solved, figured out, done by the
No,
first week of the year.
no.
Yeah.
And it's true, you know, and
Right.
that's why I love the rap episodes too, because it's a good look at the resources we got, the things we're working on right now, where everything is. And for me, that always brings up the noticing instead of, what do we say, instead of judging, right? Just
Right.
noticing, where are you at?
Right.
And so even though we've been talking about setting up the New Year's habits, I have done so much better this past year at setting up my January habits in December. I still knew that I'm coming off of travel, so it looks a little different, you know, and we'll start the fast and different things on the 7th. And that's given me a lot of peace of mind knowing that, okay, I don't have to start the first. Our anniversary is on the 5th, you know, that's on Friday. So trying to be healthy, only celery might not be realistic, right? And being able to enjoy that and enjoy the part of it where you're celebrating and also look forward to the part where we can get back to the discipline and reaching towards those goals that we know will help elevate our different dimensions of wellness.
Right.
Yeah.
So, do you do, I know you do goals. You do goals all
Mhm.
year long. Do
Mhm.
you do resolutions? Do you, like, how do you rock it in the new year?
So I'm not mad at resolutions. You know, I question
Mhm.
it because of everybody's perspective on how resolutions don't work or how it might take away from the motivation to do it because of maybe the judgment that goes with
Mhm.
it, like we talk about. So really, I think that I build my resolutions into my goals, right? Because I always try to
Mhm.
make things habits. It's not just,
Mhm.
oh, this is what I'm doing for 21 days. This is if I need to get better, me adding it to my lifestyle, right? Again, I don't diet, I have a healthy lifestyle.
Mhm.
And so that's the way I think about it. I do look at the time, right? I still need to do what you say you do and list your wins and the things for the
Mhm.
year. I have it in my planner for this week. Um but really, I just focus on goals. You know, I might look back and say, okay, I need to be better in these areas. And I look forward to doing that this year. But the way I get specific about it is my SMART goals, and I focus on it there.
Okay, cool. I
Yeah.
think I've mentioned it on the show before, and I'll put a link to it for anybody who's still like, I feel like I need something to wrap up 2023. Or I use Susanna Conway. She's a writer and an author out of Australia, and
Hmm.
she does a thing called Unravel Your Year.
Yes.
And she also, so what she does, and it's pretty thick, it's like a 65 page, like it's a commitment, right?
Wow.
So she walks you through unraveling the past year, and then what's your word for this year, and
Hmm.
then what do you want to create in this year. So
Hmm.
it's a beautiful arc, and sometimes there's pieces of it I'm like, yeah, I don't have time for that, or I don't want to do that, right? I just use easy focus. But there's a lot of her work, I've been using it for years, with myself and clients, that I really like I really enjoy. And as our listeners know, and like, last year was such a personally tough year. Like,
Yeah.
it was a lot to unpack it, but I really feel like she guided me through that. And I tell you what I did for my end of the year thing?
I don't
The
know. What'd you
We've been
do?
on break, so
Yeah, we have.
I think this is going to be my new tradition.
Okay.
So one of my mastermind buddies and I, which who y'all know, Dr. Cynthia Phelps, we do usually an end of the year retreat.
Yeah.
And of course it got disrupted with COVID and all of that. And so this was our first year we were back in person around the time of the year that we like to do it. And we use Susanna Conway stuff. So this year she came up here and we decided to go to the spa.
Hmm.
So, we are in Gwinnett County, Georgia, and we
Hmm.
have amazing Korean spas. And
Yes.
so we went to the spa for 9 hours.
I love
And
it.
what we did is we would work for 2 hours. And I mean, the work is you're processing your stuff, you're looking at stuff, and then we'd go get in the hot tub. And then
Love
we'd
it.
work for 2 hours, and then we go because they had different, and we did that 2 days in a row. And as far as the 8 dimensions of wellness goes, it
Mhm.
was amazing
Good.
because physically we felt great, and it
Yeah.
was also such a great way to process big stuff, right?
Yes.
Because
Yes.
we like to do the hot cold cold treatment that
Mm.
and I found out Andrew Huberman, over the podcaster over at Huberman Lab, out of Stanford, he did a whole episode about this,
On the
about
hot cold
wellness,
method.
about the hot cold. And
Okay.
basically, you probably shouldn't do more than, I think he said optimal is like 11 minutes a week. And the
Mm.
way I do it is like, well, the cold part, not the hot. You can do more of the hot. But the ice bath and the cold is the part that can be a little tricky. But usually when I do it, I go in the hot tub and then I'm in the cold for 1 minute and I come out and I rest. And then I do the hot tub and I'm in the cold for 2 minutes
Mm.
and I come out and I rest. So in my cycle,
Mhm.
it's about a 6 minute cycle. So
Okay.
if you go to the spa twice a week, which who
Mhm.
does? Like we did it this time because we did it back to back.
Somebody, I'm not mad at it.
But it was the 11 minutes and it was
Okay.
awesome.
Good.
And I
Good.
have to tell you, if you are local and you haven't tried like Jeju or Spa Land, like
They're
the
amazing.
entry fee is very reasonable. And
$35.
then yeah, and then you just if you buy services, of course it's going to jack
They're
the
add on.
prices way up. But
Right.
you can literally spend we with food and everything. It was less than $10 an hour
Mhm.
for a beautiful location and places that were, just delightful to work in.
Yes.
So,
And I love the heated floors, you
mm,
know, and the options of the saunas. All the different
mhm,
saunas are beautiful, and
mhm.
both of them. But I have a question. When you rested in
Sure.
between your hot and cold,
Yeah.
what did that you rested where? Are you just standing in between the pools? Are you doing something? Are you in
There's
the
a chair.
infrared?
There's chairs you can sit there. I did the infrared a
Right.
couple of times. Yeah.
Okay.
I did
So
the
you're just
infrared.
you're out of the pools, beside the water somewhere so
You're
you can jump
letting
back
your
in.
body recalibrate
Right.
between the ice cold before you get back in the hot. You're letting your nervous system rest is
I just want
what part of you're doing.
that makes
Yeah.
sense. I'm extreme, like adding burpees, adding stuff in
I
between. Like, what do you when you say rest? What do you
You're
mean?
resting.
Got
Like
you.
yeah, you can be in the infrared, that's not a
Yeah, I
problem, but
like
you're just
infrared.
not heating yourself up. Like you're not going from one extreme to because you've already
That
done
makes
that once.
sense.
Like from the
Right.
hot to the cold, that's the extreme. And
Mhm.
then you're letting I I'm trying to now Andrew talked about it on
Mhm.
his see, I just call him by his first name. I don't know him, but
Sorry, Andrew. It's
Andrew. Thank
okay.
you, Andrew.
Right.
Um, he talked about like it's good for your body to shiver. It's good for your
Mhm.
metabolism to shiver. And
Mm.
so if you rest after the cold and you let yourself come back to temperature normally, you're shivering a little bit during that.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
there's been a lot of scientific research done on it, and it's pretty cool. But here's what I will tell you from my inner authority and my body wisdom.
Okay.
My body loves it.
Mm.
Like it takes away the inflammation.
Mhm.
I feel better. I feel reset. Like every
Mhm.
time I do it, I'm like, why am I not doing this on a regular basis? Because it's one of those things that, like, when you do it, your body's like, whoa, that was good,
Okay.
you know?
Yes.
So,
And I love
highly recommend it.
that you know stuff like that, about
Right?
yourself.
Right?
I was thinking about you and thinking about my ideal schedule and time management for 2024 and thinking about waking up at 6 and I said, "Is it realistic? Will I do it?" I said, Christine likes to wake up before the sun.
I do.
And I think you and I are similar in that. It's just getting consistent and the discipline to do it. But knowing yourself like that reminds me of our guest this season, Marla, who we had on for physical wellness. She
Yes.
was talking about remember who you are, right? She has a new playbook that she just published, helping people get reconnected with the magic of themselves. And it's beautiful.
Right? It's
It's
stunning.
beautiful.
It is
Yes.
stunning. We will make sure we put a link to it in our show notes and
Hmm.
share it out on socials because
Yeah.
it's stunning.
And I
Yeah.
love the remember who you are. Last year, well, now, and 2022 at the end of the year when I left the salaried position, and I was thinking about, and actually I think it was the first time I stepped down when my mom was sick, and I was
Mhm.
thinking about all the things I wanted, and I realized how much of it I had forgotten. So you're talking about how often we get to go to the spa, and if we get to go 2 times a week, that might be something you forget that your body likes until you do it again.
Right? I have to tell you, one of
Mhm.
the things that was a huge plus going through my wins and challenges and looking at the pictures, you know how much I traveled this year. Like, I had over 40 flights this year from
Wow.
caregiving and work, right? Yeah.
40 flights.
I mean, that's at least 20 trips. But you think about one way, like over 40 flights.
That means you were on a plane almost once a week.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And but I looked and I did chiropractic and I did acupuncture and I went to the spa more times last year than I've ever been because
Mm.
people would come into town and I would take them.
Mhm.
And I walked and I played with Monty and I
Mhm.
did interplay and I need all that, y'all, because first of all, I feel like I need the gold stars, but
And you got them.
really, I was really looking at because we believe in practicing what we preach, and I wanted to. And last year, like, was so tough. I was like, okay, how did I do on the self care? How did I do on my dimensions of wellness? And there's places I'm out of balance, and there's places I need to pull back in. But when I really looked at, oh, you did this, right? And you did this, and oh, you forgot that. So that's got to be scheduled,
Yeah.
sooner than later.
Mhm.
But it's also just that kind of that self audit and check about where are we and what do we need more of.
Exactly. Exactly. And that reminds me of our guest for occupational wellness was Michelle Avenue. And she
Yep.
came from Enjoy Coffee Company. And what I love, I mean, the branding is amazing, right? The coffee is
Hmm.
delicious. And what I love
Did you
about,
have her come? I'm sorry to interrupt,
no,
but
you're
did you
fine,
have
to the
her
Glow
come to one
Club.
of the glow clubs?
So I invited them to go to the Glow Club, but because of the
Hmm.
schedule conflict, I did not want to have the product sitting over here and it's one of the products in the retail space when
Hmm.
usually their experience, they even have like the coffee kiosks that they take different places. So because they're big on the experience, I didn't want to minimize that by having their coffee to the side. And so the goal is to get them there this year.
Yeah, I love
Hmm.
that. That
Yes.
is one of my favorite things about Women Connecting in Wisdom, whether
All
it's the
the
podcast or the community. It is the
hmm
way that we connect and then we interact with each other throughout the year. And it's like, oh, yeah, we did this with this person, or, it was
yes.
so much fun. That's what I was looking at as I was looking at our pictures. I was looking at
Yes.
your birthday. I was looking at, when we you did the Black Business Expo last
Yes.
year
In February.
and
Yes.
Cecile was in town
Yes,
and
she
like I was
was.
just like, how fun was that? That was
We did
super
so
fun,
much. Yeah,
right?
it was. And that's why I love thinking about their company and just enjoy the moment. Enjoy what's in front of
Mhm.
you that you're drinking.
Mhm.
So I was doing 2-hour blocks over the holiday, and sometimes I would have the coffee and I'm like, okay, I have my coffee. That's like one of my productivity drinks, right? I can
Mhm.
start working. I'm like, no, you're on holiday, right? How about you enjoy your coffee? And so I took
Mm.
the time to just sit and be and drink my coffee. And then I would start whatever I was going to work on
Mm.
after to make sure that you space it out a little bit.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was did you have a special tradition or anything this year that really brought you a lot of joy from the holidays?
Mm. I mean, I think that my special tradition this year was being able to go out of town. This is our third
Mhm.
year being able to go out of town together. So that's beautiful being able to take a step away, be able to go to the water. Right?
Mhm.
Um, it's interesting that I go to the beach now in the wintertime. Never thought that would be a thing, and I love it. I still love,
My
you know, you
favorite time of year to go
to
to
go
the
to the
beach.
beach.
Mhm.
Why?
Because there's not very many people.
That too.
I love sunrise at the beach. I
Yeah.
love walking like for miles and barely seeing anybody and just like me and God and the ocean and
Mhm.
like it's one of my favorite magical things to do and I haven't done it yet. Like I
Mhm.
I need to see if I can work that out.
Yeah. So that, we always go to the water, being able to rest and just be together. And what I think a lot about, honestly, Christine, is just Pharaoh and I's relationship. This year we were
Yeah.
able to do the audio book. So to be young Black professionals traveling in
Mhm.
the United States, we didn't used to be able to travel. You go back a couple decades, they might have been yanking us over, asking for some verification. You know what I mean? So
Right.
to be able to go easily fly on a plane and go to the beach and travel how we want and have the time freedom to do it, have the financial freedom and support to do it, was really beautiful to end the year that way and start 2024 looking forward to our audiobook that we're working on. And of course the Christmas tree, excuse me, behind us
Mhm.
is another favorite tradition.
Right.
Yeah,
I
it brought a
love
lot of
that for
joy
you.
this year, so it
Now,
was
what'd
needed.
you do for January 1st? What was your what did you have
Hmm.
any special traditions on
Rest.
the you rested?
Rest. And it's interesting, and it was really interesting the way things played out this holiday season, because everything I wanted, even if I didn't say it out loud, happened at different times throughout the trip.
I like that.
And went to Grandma Linda's house, and she made a well, she had already cooked some black eyed peas, greens, and chicken. And that's the thing, in the culture. And usually I don't cook black eyed peas and greens and everything for New Year's. So to
You
be able to
don't?
get that, no, I don't,
Okay.
was beautiful.
Yeah, we cook them here. That is one of
Yeah,
our traditions.
beautiful.
So, yeah, this year I incorporated on New Year's Eve.
Mhm.
I was reading about an Irish tradition, which, my mother line is
Mm.
Irish,
Yes.
where you open the back door to let out the old year and open
Mm.
the front door to welcome in the new year. So we
Okay.
did that for the first time. That was fun.
Mm.
And New Year's Day, we decided to go for a hike.
Mhm.
And what we realized is we had never hiked Brasstown Bald. Let me make sure I'm saying that right. It's the highest elevation in
Mhm.
Georgia.
Oh, what's brass
And
knuckle?
I'll put a link to it in our show notes, but it
Yeah.
was fabulous, Shannon. It was about
Okay.
2 hours from my house. It was
Okay.
North Georgia, up past north of Dahlonega. And now there, I wasn't realizing how cold it would be up there because, it was like in the 40s, but we
Mhm.
got up there in your higher elevations. So there was still ice up there and snow. There was snow on
Snow.
the treetop.
Oh my good. I haven't seen snow all year.
So, well, I just flew back from Denver and
Yes.
the Rocky Mountains, so I got to see snow. But it was
Beautiful.
fun to see it in Georgia.
Right.
And you get there, and there's a about a 1 mile hike, almost straight up to the
Mhm.
observation tower. But
Mhm.
when you get up there, it is a 360-degree view of the Blue Ridge Mountains, and it was so awe-inspiring. Like, you I just felt it changing my molecules. Like, it
Mhm.
was that good, right?
Yes, yes, I
And to
understand.
have it be within that short of a driving distance from us
Mhm.
was just magical.
Mhm.
So,
I
we
love
did
that.
that, and then we stopped by Helton Falls. I had never hiked that fall. It was only a 3/4 mile. It was an easy hike, but beautiful waterfall.
Okay.
And so we did two new things on January 1st,
I
and
love it.
then came home and ate our black eyed peas and our cornbread and our greens. And yeah, it was delish and
Yeah.
really good.
Yeah, it was beautiful. We got to spend it with his grandparents and go to the beach, and restful. It was beautiful. I'm so glad that you guys got to have a good time. Is that
Mm,
where these pictures were from you and Joe with the heart? I was gonna ask you.
hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, that was it.
Okay. I
That was
love that
it.
you add good places to our adventure list, because we've been talking about new places recently, so we might go up there.
Well, one of our goals this year, and we'll see with my
Mhm.
travel schedule, right?
Mhm.
But one of my goals this year is to hike at least once a month.
Mhm.
Like, there's no, like, we live near some beautiful places. I
Yeah.
mean, we are 45 minutes to an hour from the start of the Appalachian Trail. Like,
Mhm.
I want to do some day hiking of the Appalachian Trail, and yeah, it's I we've talked about nature so much on this show and
Mhm.
how it weaves into not just environmental wellness, but into all the wellnesses. And I just think about, yeah, I mean, to me, that's not a hard one. I just have to schedule it.
Mhm.
I do have to give a shout out before we get off this topic. So New Year's Eve, we
Yes.
knew we weren't going out. Like sometimes we go out, we do different things different years, right? We've done where we danced all night,
Mm.
and we're like this year, like no, we wanted to have a low key. So we
Right.
went dancing Sunday morning. We did
Mhm.
our Zumba class Sunday morning at the gym, and
Yes.
we just flipped the script on what we were doing. But we did get our dancing in. We just did it early.
Good. I love that you guys do that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. That's
That's
important.
it's one of our goals for 2024 is more
Mhm.
dancing.
Mhm.
So I
We
was a
just
little
said that
short
today.
when I looked back over everything with
Okay.
I mean, not surprising with,
And that's
but
yeah. And that's where we talk about the balance, right? The quote unquote balance that's only possible for a split second. So you looked at it, you did great last year, you made it through. Congratulations,
thank
right?
you. You
Yes.
too.
Yes, thank you. And more dancing
So
this year.
right? Welcome to our listeners. If you want to put in the comments, like, what is one of your goals this year? What's something fun? And doesn't have to be like it can be a little one, or it can be a. I actually encourage it to be a joyful one. So far, we've
Mm,
talked about hiking and dancing, like, and trust us, we have a ton of business goals. We
yes,
have
we
a
do.
ton of, but I like to start with our wellness goals and our self
Mhm.
care goals, and what are the things that you want to do to bring you joy, right?
Yes. Yes. For me last year, what came up earlier when you were talking is what is the word of the year this year, right?
Ooh,
Last year was consistency. I don't know if I have one yet this year. I know I need to continue to be consistent. So I'm thinking about consistency, hope. Those are like two words that have been floating in the content and stuff I've been doing, but I don't know. I don't think I've settled on one yet. Do you have a word of the year yet?
I do, and it's pretty funny because you
Okay.
know what I did is Cynthia and I were playing around with a couple of things and
Yeah.
had this whole list of words. And Dana, welcome. Dana
Hey,
says
Dana.
consistent journaling.
That's
Oh,
important.
yum.
Yeah.
Yeah. We were playing with all these words, and you know how I'm a tech junkie and I love playing with AI. So I'm like, well, I'm going to enter in all these words and put it in and see what AI says my word of the year should be, right?
Okay. And what did it say?
So it came back with worth awe.
Mm.
And then Cynthia types and says, did you just make that up? And it said yes. That it took all the words that were playing around and came up with worth awe. And I'm
I
like,
like it.
ooh. I mean, you think about that as it applies to personal and work. Worth awe.
And I think it will be, with our
Mm-hmm.
goals of volume 3, that means 2 audiobooks this year. We have the
Mm-hmm.
summit coming up. We have Connected and Vision Party. You have Interplay, and I'm sure more international stages to
Mm-hmm.
be on and things. So I feel that way about every year that you have, all the things you do. I'm always like, wow, this is amazing.
You know, I was so grateful. Like just when you think about last year, what was your highlight?
Mm.
What was something that you're like, I'm gonna remember that for the rest of my life?
Becoming an Amazon bestseller publisher,
Mm-hmm.
best-selling
Mm-hmm.
publisher, that was huge.
Yep.
And even if we had for a couple of reasons, right? Because you can do it once, can you do it again? That's
Right.
always something that I ask myself. So we did it again, super excited about that. And not only did we do it again, but we did it as Connected and Wisdom Press. And that's
Yeah.
huge because we look forward to supporting a lot of stories, having more books, having more authors and narrators. So to be able to tell the ladies that this is what we're shooting for and we hit it was huge for me. That's one of the big things.
Mm, I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
and retail too, to have Shaylo Glow turn 3 and be at a retail
Mhm.
space when I was out at markets, even to work through the logistics and have the conversations that I've been having this year has been huge.
Right?
Yeah.
I think about all the connections, right? I think about all the people we met and talked
Mhm.
to, and yeah, just how much. You know, I was thinking. Now we were talking earlier about her, Delia. Was it Delia who did the
That
palliative
what?
care episode with us?
Oh, that's a great question. I think it was.
Do you remember on that episode? when we had the grandmother listening to us for the
Yes.
first time.
And her 12-year-old
And
grandson.
she was so scared, and she was able to ask her a question that just
Mhm.
totally shifted her wellness in that moment. Like, that was one of the standout moments for me, that I was like, all right.
Yeah.
We've had a couple where I'm like, okay, if we need to hang up our mics and be done, we're done. We've done a good job.
Yes, all those are on my list. Yep, Brandy Lee's on my list.
Right?
Jailon, raving fan
Right?
from Alexandria is on my list, and that
Right.
palliative care conversation,
Oh,
definitely.
that was huge. I think about our conversation last season, or this season actually, that we're wrapping up with Sula,
Right.
about
Mhm,
emotional and mental wellness, and how, when life just flattens you, which it did for a lot of people this year, that self-care really is an all-time job.
mhm,
Like that, and you may need to get back to the basics, right? And it's okay to be gentle with yourself,
mhm,
and that you don't have to do it by yourself. That
mhm,
having community to support you is
mhm.
huge,
And the community doesn't have to do it for you. Sometimes it's just sitting there and
right?
just being there,
Holding
you
space
know?
for you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
I love in her chapter how she says that, she had this list of things, and when she went back to the basics, she found that it was just basic self-care, taking a shower, brushing your
Mhm.
teeth, getting out of bed, eating breakfast.
Mhm.
Like those might be things where if you feel like it's a feat to do them and you start doing them again after a difficult situation, it's not really a big deal. Or, I feel like there's this little, how do you say it? It's almost like feeling like you should give congratulate yourself for doing it, but it's usually not that big of a deal, so you kinda downplay it. But those are the times when you should be clapping.
I
If
think
you're
we
back to
celebrate
brushing
it,
your teeth,
right?
yeah, and that's my
Right?
point, is
We
celebrate
celebrate
it,
it,
getting back to the
right?
basics.
Right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
after difficult things. It's important.
absolutely.
And that's why I love for this season, for environmental wellness, we had our authors on, our volume 2 authors, and we talk about environment being outside, but it's also being in environments that support your growth, right? And for us, it's having those people around you who are going to tell you,
Mhm.
hey, you could do better here, or hey, I see you need help, I have a resource for you, or I could
Mhm.
help you there, or you're doing a good job, good job, you do get your gold stars.
Mhm.
Having people like that is huge for me in my environmental wellness, especially with the transitions that we've gone through COVID, with the workplace transitions, with the way we spend our time differently now. Having those anchors in my support system help me maintain my wellness when I think about environmental wellness and how it intersects with all the other dimensions.
Right.
Yeah.
When I think about environmental wellness this year, I think about the chapter I wrote for volume 2. And yeah, I was thinking the other day, because in that chapter I talked about Lady Bird Johnson
Yes.
and her wildflowers, right?
Yes.
And I was looking at, so a lot of times when I'm on planes, I get bored,
Mhm.
and I don't usually watch a movie. I'll read a book or I'll play a game. But the other thing I like to do is to go through my pictures, right?
Mhm.
So because I have another book that's probably I've been wanting to do for years, that
Mhm.
around poetry prompts and my photography, because I take a lot of photographs. But I'm going to look it up because I can't remember now, but I'm going to
Okay.
tell you just a second
Yeah.
how many photographs of flowers I took in 2023.
Mhm.
685 photos of flowers.
It's worth a book.
And I just think about, you know, one of my things of wellness is looking for beauty.
Mhm.
And the environmental wellness is huge for me, and seeing beauty in my environment, and not just like having a relationship with it, right? Like, that old phrase of stopping to smell the roses.
Mhm.
I think that that's to take that moment to acknowledge the beauty, the grace, the things that are just there for us. Like, yeah. So I
I
was
love
thinking
that.
about that, and I've got some pictures that don't even look, well, you're not going to be able to see
I
it
kinda
because
see
it's not
it.
going to be. but I wish you could see the colors. You can't really see the
Mhm.
colors,
Mhm.
but don't even really look real. I'm like,
Mhm.
whoa, that was cool. So yeah. So I was thinking
I'm an
about that,
advocate for the book.
right? Oh
I
yeah,
support the idea.
it's coming. It's coming.
Yeah.
One of my favorite episodes. Ooh, I bet it was one of yours too from
What?
last season. You want to say it?
Not which one are you thinking about?
I was thinking about the truth, trauma, and tresses with Lizette Windsor. Like that was a powerful episode.
Yes. I've been thinking about it for a long time.
Mhm.
Hair and what I think about is knowing yourself. We talked about
Mhm.
Marla and the magic of you being remembering who you are. And for me, that was a huge thing with my hair, having it permed and not know what curl
Mhm.
pattern I had, like shaving my hair and not knowing what it would look like was like part it's kind of like not knowing my DNA and where it's from. Like yourself, but
Mhm.
there's behind this door, there's stuff you don't know. So
Mhm.
I was really grateful and thankful to be able to have that conversation with her. I love the work that she does.
Mhm. Yeah, that was really powerful. And I behind the scenes connected her with Kelsey, who
Yes.
wrote Decolonizing the Body, who we had
Yes.
on in season 15, I think.
I think it was season
So,
15. It wasn't that long ago.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And they're a great match. We talked about that.
Mhm.
And I think that, their continued work, I'm super excited to see what they do together. She
Right?
was talking about, Lizette was talking about a second book. And I know that Kelsey does stuff with communities and groups. So
Mhm.
I can only see that being a good thing.
Right?
Yeah.
So much fun.
Yes.
Well, speaking of fun,
Hmm.
what are your goals for fun this year?
Ooh, for fun. That's a great
Right?
question. One is to have more fun.
Mhm.
You and I talked about not only having work meetings, but also spending time,
Mhm.
right? So that's on my fun
Mhm.
list. What more dancing with Pharaoh with my boo? What
Nice.
else? More
Because y'all are
surprises for him.
celebrating, you said
Four
fifth?
years.
4.
4 years.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah.
congrats. That's
Thank you.
exciting.
Yeah, it's been
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
So more dancing, more surprises, more, I guess you could say, fun time, with me and
Mhm.
you, more
Mhm.
time with my best friend. We did great at that last year with the time freedom that I had,
Mhm.
continuing that, and more time with my guy kids and my little brother. Those are some things that are on the list. Oh, and more dates with me. I'm going to take myself out more. Yes.
I know we've talked about it before, but Julia Cameron's The
Mm,
Artist Way.
okay.
She talks. So when Dana said consistent journaling, I like
Yeah.
to do in my morning practice. I like to do morning pages where
Mm-hmm.
you just free flow write. And some people, I can't remember. It's been years
Mm,
since I've followed the original formula,
I
so I
hear you.
can't remember what Julia says. Sorry, Julia. I can't remember if it's 3 pages handwritten or if it's a timer thing. I
Okay.
think it's 3 pages handwritten, but I do the timer thing,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
I'm just like where I get to, I get to.
Yeah.
But she also promotes artist dates that you take yourself out on a date.
Hmm.
And you know, I was thinking about that. Oh, and I'm going to forget her name. Dalton. What was her first name? Who did the
Sandra
seven?
Sandra
Sandra.
Dalton.
Thank
Hmm.
you.
You're welcome.
Sandra, who did the 7 types of rest. And I think about that as far as our creative rest, because she really talked to us about how if you're doing a lot of creative output, like which if you are a solopreneur or an entrepreneur or an artist, like you're doing a lot of creative output, that you need to rest and take in other people's creativity.
Mhm.
So whether that's watching a movie or going to the museum or, taking in other people's creativity, which I really, that episode still sticks with me because I realized instead of giving myself a hard time for
Mhm.
watching creative reality shows, that was
Right.
exactly what I was doing, was
Mhm.
resting that part of myself and taking in somebody else's creative energy.
Yes, that's exactly what it did to me,
Yeah.
did for me, and that's why I loved including it in my intellectual wellness chapter
You
this
did?
year,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because we were talking about the workflow and how to maximize your capacity. That's huge, but it's not. And we talked about it for the beginning for January 1st, right? It's not just about doing more things, get more done, reach more goal. It's not about more. It's just about being
Mhm.
more effective. It's about adding it into your daily routines and your habits instead of it pulling on your willpower when you have to do it anyways. Things like that. But when you have to do the stuff that you're responsible for, we absolutely have to rest. So I wanted to include that because she lays it out. And before I was just thinking about rest as naps. Naps was the extra rest outside of sleep, not sensory rest and social rest, spiritual
Mhm.
rest and creative rest, how you said. So I actually
Mhm.
wrote a LinkedIn article about it to start with the seventh step in my chapter. And instead
Right?
of ending the year on doing more, let's end the year with rest. Because my goal for this year
Right?
was to start and work from a place of rest. And so that's what we talked about, her research.
I love that. I did feel a little, just a twinge, I have to
Mm.
admit, of guilt as we
Okay.
drove out of the neighborhood and I saw my neighbors like working on their yard and
Hmm.
making it beautiful. And I'm
Okay.
like, yeah, I'm out of here. I'm going to go hike. I'm going to go hike.
Yes. Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
But
And you,
I want to call in more nature and more time with Joe this year. So that's
yes,
why I decided that's why I'm starting the year with that.
beautiful.
And yeah.
And the
So,
yard is still there, right? It's still outside.
oh, it's still there. Still got a
So
lot of leaves on it.
yeah. And that's important to notice. I feel that way
Right.
sometimes on social media. You see people doing certain things and you'll feel a little, but then you remember where you are and no, I'm
Right.
I'm here because this is what I said I wanted to do. And hopefully they felt doing their yard the way you felt out in the mountains.
Well, and making that conscious choice, right?
Exactly.
That we make conscious choices to. Oh, speaking of financial wellness, right? I know you and I
Yes,
talked this
we
season, and we
did.
didn't have a guest, but I reached out. Oh, let me see if I can find her name because and I'm supposed to reach back out in the new year because
Okay.
I was following her on social media, and she's got a new book out for folks that are neurodivergent,
Hmm.
and I want her to come on the podcast for financial. This is one of my goals is to get her on the podcast. Her name is Elise, and what is her last name? Elise Fulmore, and she has a new book um, that is called Keeping Finance Personal. That it's in pre-order right now, but I'm hoping she will come on and talk to us about it
Would love to
because
talk about it.
she it looks really exciting. It talks about ditch the shoulds and the shame and rewrite your money story.
Yes. I love it.
So, right?
And talking about money, talking about rewriting the story reminds me of April Roberts, our guest that we had on this season for intellectual wellness. One of my favorite story parts of April's story is how she sold her insurance company, right? If you sell a company, you're doing pretty good at structure, organization, teams, and systems. Um, and when we talk about finances and rewriting stories, I look forward to building a healthy insurance career, right? So talking to her about what she does in the world, her Vixen community, and how she helps people with their mindsets so that
Hmm.
they can, attract wealth, build wealth, and be organized. I love that she does that. And I love our conversation that we had with her. It's been really good.
Right? We really had a great season. It was super fun. I'm going to call it. We had a great year. We
Yes,
had a great season.
we did.
And even though there were challenges and there were things like to have volume one be an Amazon bestseller, to have an audiobook out of volume one, to have volume two come out and be an Amazon bestseller, to have a successful summit and book signings and community events and classes,
Yes,
and to still be laughing and having a good time. And yeah, I am going to call that a success for sure.
definitely.
For
Definitely.
sure.
And even the frustrations I call wins.
Mhm.
Again, if I wasn't in the retail space, there would be no frustrations on Auburn Avenue. There would be
Right.
no conversation to have at all. So I take it as an opportunity to, again, celebrate the fact that I'm there, see how we can grow and continue whatever the situation is that the challenge or the frustration is at or in. Um, and then to grow myself. Sometimes if I'm the reason that we're there, or I could have done something better, then it gives you that push that you need to be able to scale to the next level, or to keep whatever you're doing sustainable. So they're necessary, just like the celebration is necessary, going through the frustrations and the challenges is necessary for you to be where you are. So I call them all wins.
Right? You know what is a win that I am just thinking about right in this moment? Because
What?
it's going to hit at the in between time between this show and 142.
What?
Is it your number three for us?
It is.
It is
Soon?
your number because it was, well, oh, it
I'm a
won't hit
sick.
because
It's going to be like,
originally, no, originally it was supposed to be the 6th, but then
mm-hmm,
it wasn't.
mm-hmm.
It
The
was
insurrection.
the 13th.
Yes. So we're coming up.
I'm like, it always throws me off. Okay, so we will be, it'll still be an in between time, but no, it won't. Here we go. I'm looking. Yeah, it'll still be a little bit of an in between, but we can talk more about that next week,
Yes.
because we're going to have Sahar on for using your human design to overcome burnout. She's going to
Yes.
be episode 143. I am really excited about some of these experts. I'm not going to say some, all of the
Right.
experts
Right.
that we have lined up and the coffee and chats that we have coming. And I'm just delighted.
Me
And
too.
I want to offer the invitation to our listeners. If you know somebody incredible that you think needs to be on Women Connected in Wisdom, shoot us a message, give us, I want to get rid of that language. Hang on, let me change that language.
Okay. Okay.
Send us a message.
Yes.
And you can do Christine at womenconnectedinwisdom.com. You can do Shannon at womenconnectedinwisdom.com. You can do Women Connected in Wisdom podcast at Gmail. Like,
Yes.
there's all kinds of ways to reach us, or you can message us on all the socials. And one of my goals this year is for us to do better at asking for subscriptions and 5-star testimonials. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're listening to us and you love us, please go to your favorite podcast app and give us a 5-star review. Tell us what you love about us, and
Yes.
help us spread the word.
Hmm. Spread the word about wellness, and
Right?
that's what I think about that I love when we talk about the moments that were big in the podcast and in our companies last year. It's this was worth it for this grandmother over here. It was worth it for
Mm-hmm,
this mom. It was worth it for this woman in Africa. It was worth it for these women in America.
mm-hmm.
And spreading the word is huge. Getting them connected to the resources that they need, to the people and the experts who are qualified to help them and care about their well-being is what we're all about. And when we talk about goals, not only do we want to get you connected to the resources, but we also have an event coming up, right? So if you're one of those people and you're saying, okay, the year started off with ease, right? Not everything is lined up. We have an opportunity for you to lay out your goals and to create those vision boards if you're interested. Next Wednesday on the 10th, we'll be meeting for our third annual Connected and Vision Board Party. We've told you a couple of our goals. We'll have some more that we talk about, but we love doing this in community and seeing what happens. Last year we had volume 2 on there, and that was definitely a success. And of course, this year again, volume 3 and some other stuff. So go to Eventbrite and RSVP if you would like to come, and invite your friends who you have those conversations with, and accountability throughout the year, and we'll be connected in vision together then.
Right? Make your favorite drink. We're usually drinking hot tea and having
Yeah.
some snacks and
Yeah.
hanging out and creating together. And
Right.
creating more is definitely on my, like,
Mm-hmm.
creating more art is definitely in those goals.
So I have a question before we go to the wisdom in action. There was something
Sure.
that you said you wanted to talk more about before we did the intro, and it was about, you remember?
Oh, yes. It was about that article that I read on the New York Times. Let me see if I can pull it up. Hang on
Okay.
just a second. I had him here. What did I do with it? Let's see. Let's see if I can find it. Yeah, Adam. What is Adam's last name? I want to say, is it Young? Let's see, New York Times. And I want to put a link to it. And I do think it's behind a firewall, so I
Okay.
apologize for that. Let's see. And it was an article about, if you're feeling numb, there's a reason for that. And what I may do is see, let's see if you're feeling numb. I had it pulled up and then it went away. So give me just a second and I'll tell you.
I'm here for you.
That numbness you're feeling, there's a word for it. And it was talking about in relationship to the war, but I think it's also for a lot of things, like for caregivers and for burnout. But basically, the thing that really jumped out to me, because a lot of times people think, oh, if they're not doing something about it, they don't care, right?
Mhm.
But what he was saying is inaction isn't always caused by apathy, it can also be a product of empathy. More specifically, it can be the result of what psychologists call empathetic distress, hurting for others while feeling unable to help. So that was really powerful because he went on to say, he said early researchers labeled it compassion fatigue and described it as the cost of caring. But the theory was that seeing so much suffering is a form of vicarious trauma that depletes us until we no longer have enough energy to care. But then he was talking about these two neuroscientists, Olga Klimecki and Tanya Singer, reviewed the evidence and they discovered that compassion fatigue is a misnomer. Caring itself is not costly. What drains people is not merely witnessing others' pain, but feeling incapable of alleviating it.
Mhm.
In times of sustained anguish, empathy is a recipe for more distress, and in some cases, even depression. What we need instead is compassion. So it was basically saying that they're often used interchangeably, empathy and compassion, but they're not the same.
Right.
Because empathy absorbs others' emotions as your own, like I'm
Mhm.
hurting for you, and compassion focuses your action on their emotions. I see that you are hurting and I am here for you. Isn't that incredible?
I like that.
Like the separating it out. And I thought
Mhm.
about Dr. Cynthia Phelps and Inner Ally and
Yeah, me too.
compassion. I thought about Diane Hillary, who we had on from Compassion Atlanta. And I thought about like just the teasing that out and how that responds to our health and wellness.
Yeah. And for me, what comes up is the empathy part, right? Can you
Mhm.
choose to not be empathetic if that's
Mhm.
largely how you are? Right? I think you can separate it. There are times, there are times I'm compassionate, I'm showing up for you, but I'm okay even if
Mhm.
this situation is difficult
Mhm.
understandably. But other times I definitely am empathetic a lot of
Mhm.
times.
Mhm.
So I can get the dissonance that comes from that with
Mhm.
me being in Decatur and not in Ukraine or
Mhm.
Palestine, these different places,
Mhm.
right? Um, but what helps me is focusing on what I have going on, because sometimes I feel like that's where the helplessness comes from. Is feeling like there's all this stuff going on and I can't do anything, but you still have the situations on your plate that's where your energy should be going, right? And
Right.
so for me it's like, okay, this is here. I pray about it, I process it, I do whatever research I feel like is necessary. But then as an empathetic person, I do try to sit that down and remember,
Mhm.
okay, well, the reason that part of my capacity is taken and I'm not writing legislators or doing the other things I could do from where I am is because I also have a lot on my plate. And because I do care, that's where I'm going to pour my energy. And I feel like that helps me in those difficult times because I'm doing what I can to sustain the situations or fortify the situations that need help in my life. And I'm still giving it ear or staying aware of what's going on so that I can be part of the worldly community. But that helps me.
Yeah. I think that's in line with some of what they were saying because what they were doing is they taught their participants
Hmm.
to respond with compassion rather than empathy. And what they had them focusing on was not sharing the other's pain, but on noticing their feelings and offering comfort.
Hmm.
What they said, and this was interesting as far as social wellness goes too, a different neural network lit up, one associated with affiliation and social connection
Mm.
when you responded with compassion. And it said, this is why a growing body of evidence suggests that compassion is healthier for you. and kinder to others than empathy. So when you see others in pain, instead of causing you to get overloaded and retreat, compassion motivates you to reach out and help. So
Yes.
it's like a learned thing also, which I
I
think is
love that.
interesting for empaths and people that feel really deeply. Is okay, how can we shift that just a little bit?
And what came up when you said that is how we're taught as women to help, be helpful,
Mhm.
so if you hear a
Mhm.
problem,
Mhm.
it's what do I need to do? When instead,
Mhm.
I think a skill that I've been working on as a business owner is, okay, who needs to do this?
Mhm.
This is a
Mhm.
task, what needs to happen? And for me, that sounds like something that I could use to help me be more compassionate instead of empathetic when it's necessary and appropriate. I
Right?
like that.
It was just fascinating.
Thank
I'll
you
put
for
it in the
sharing.
show notes.
Yeah.
And like I said, it may be behind the paywall. They've got a
Right.
6 month welcome offer right now where it's $1 a week. And
I know.
yeah, so it was an interesting read. And I
Mhm.
just thought this time of year especially, and it was worth noting.
Yeah.
So
Thank you for
yeah.
that. I think it's
Well, and
great.
I need to give a shout out thanks to Dr. Sheila K. Collins, who's been one of
Mhm.
our guests and friends of Women Connected Wisdom, because she shared it with me.
Yeah,
And
one of our
so that was
authors.
one of our authors, yeah, in volume one. It was really impactful. I've gone
Mhm.
back to it a couple times this week.
Thank you, Dr.
So
Collins.
right?
Yeah, that's great.
So talking about putting things into action,
Yes.
what's your wisdom in action this week? What you doing?
What am I doing this week? Let's see. I like to give actual actions, like actual
Right?
things that I'm doing. Who?
Right?
Let's do what do I want to do? I'm gonna do hashtag celebrate
Mm,
because I think that I could give more time to it in the
okay.
moments when it's time to celebrate throughout the year, right? We're also
Love it.
celebrating the 4-year anniversary, so we're gonna celebrate that. And
Right?
I've felt good coming back from the trip, and with
Mm,
our work today, getting back into the rhythm of the work that I'm gonna be doing this year, and I do celebrate that. So I'm excited about it, and I'm gonna stay in
right?
this celebratory phase. That's my wisdom in action. What about
I
yours?
love it. I think
Thank you.
mine is going to be hashtag dance more. Dance more. Dance more.
I like it. That's on my list this year too.
Right?
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
And
I
it's
was
been good.
facilitating a birthday party for a friend last night, so I didn't get to go to Zumba. But,
Mm.
I finished last year with some Zumba and I want to dance more this week and have a good time and connect. I want to hashtag connect with folks. Like I'm
Mhm.
missing some people.
I hear
So
you.
I want to reach out and connect and say hello to some folks.
Yes. Yes, I
So
love it. Well, okay, ladies, thank you so much for continuously listening, showing up. Our guys, too, right? We have listeners all over the world. We know we have a list of people who love listening to the resources and everything that we share. But it's been a joy and a pleasure to do 142 episodes. To start the year off with a wrap of season 16. Whoop, whoop. 17 is one of my favorite numbers. So I'm excited for next week.
mark your calendars.
Yes.
For next Wednesday is our Connect and Vision party.
Yes.
And
Yes.
then February 23rd and 24th is
Thank
the
you.
second
Virtual summit.
virtual summit. And
Yes.
our authors are going to be speaking, and you can be in community and dancing with us and having fun, and it's free.
Yes.
And we'll put the link to that as soon as that's live in our show notes so folks can find that also.
It's
So,
gonna be super exciting.
gonna be fun. We had a
Yeah.
good time last
Yes, we did.
time.
Yes, we did.
And if you
Okay,
can't
guys.
make it for those 2 days, you can get the VIP package where you can get the recordings from all of
Yes.
our speakers. Yeah. So,
Yes. Okay, guys. Well, again, thank you for listening. Let us know on social media what your wisdom in action is. We'll talk to you
right.
there. Yes. And in the meantime, be well, be wise, be whole. We'll see you next week. Peace.